Hello, everyone. My name is Arriale Starbird. I'm a holistic health and fitness coach. And so this is the Spirit Warrior Wisdom podcast. Um, I first started this podcast just out of my heart, just because I love the Spirit Warrior way. I love to talk to other martial artists. It's just a passion project. And probably people feel my heart because these are the shows that are getting the most views. And Anthony Zender's interviews that we did in the past, they got the most amount of views. So I'm having him back on because clearly people want to hear from him. So hi Anthony, how are you today?
Hi Ariel, I'm good. Thank you for having me back on your channel, and it's an honor to be on talking about all the topics we're going to talk about. They are of the utmost importance, and clearing things up, explaining things, and is what I is part of my mission. So that's what I'm here to do, and I'm ready for the show. So.
Awesome. So I'm just going to introduce to the audience that may have not heard of you before. Anthony Zender is a former U.S. Marine and pro MMA fighter. Anthony studied intelligence operations at American Military University. Anthony is part of the Secret Space Program and is a super soldier asset for Cougar and Monarch. So there's some esoteric stuff in there and very practical stuff in there, which I really like, and I think that's what people are gravitating to. They're probably curious about the super soldier stuff and the secret space program stuff. So
Yeah,
and
I can definitely enlighten people on that because I've been, involved in it my whole life and been awake to it since 2012. So since that time, I've gathered information about the secret space program, and I can definitely get into that. But I know you want to talk about other things first, so.
yeah, well, I want to talk about everything, but one step at a time. So what interests me most with you is you studied so many different martial arts, and I really fell in love with martial arts, kind of late in life, actually. And then as I started to train in different martial arts, I felt like it was healing my heart in a very deep way. So and I think a lot of people don't really understand, with people who are looking from the outside in to martial arts. Oh, it's just violence, but it isn't just violence. There is a medicine there. There is a heart to it. And why do we train so hard? Ultimately, is to protect the people we love. It's not just useless violence. It's not meant to be used by bullies to bully other people, although some bullies do use it for that purpose. That's not why I got into it. I'm sure that's not why you got into it. And a lot of the martial artists that I know, they're very, very family oriented. They're very spiritual people. They don't go around inflicting violence on anybody, but they can if they need to defend their families and people that they love. So martial arts, you studied a variety of different martial arts. Can you just talk a little bit about the different martial arts styles that you studied and why you studied those versus other ones?
Yeah, so and my career in martial arts started in junior high when I started wrestling. Wrestling was the first martial art that I got into. As a child, I always wanted to go to karate, and I always wanted to do some kind of martial art, but I never got the chance to. So in high school, or junior high, I got the chance to wrestle, and then that became a passion for me because I wrestled in junior high. Then I went into high school, and I became a very good wrestler. I actually had a 122 and 18 record throughout my 4 years, and I finished winning a state championship undefeated my senior year. So that kind of instilled in me the competition, discipline, and the mentality, champion mentality, and martial arts because I was wrestling, so I was constantly competing against people, training every day at the top level when I was a young kid. So that was instilled in me when I was young. So I carried that on, into the Marine Corps with, going in the Marines and starting to study their martial art system, which is called MCMAP. It's called Marine Corps martial arts program. So I got into that, and I continued wrestling as well for the All Marine team. And then when I got out of the Marines, that's when I started to study the traditional martial arts. I started to study boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, jujitsu, and that was when I started to learn those styles. That's when I decided that I was going to fight MMA, and so that's when my MMA career began. When I was 25, 25 is when I had my first fight.
Gotcha. So you told me off camera a very interesting story. I just thought it's so important how things get started. You said it was your friend and you who were doing wrestling, and you just both decided to start fighting. You didn't have a coach, you didn't have anyone guiding you or mentoring you or telling you what to do. You just said, "We want to do this," and then you just started to do this with your friend, right?
Yeah, yeah. He was in high school with me. We're both state champions. You know, we both took it to the top level. And then he was the one that, you know, we saw the UFC, and we're always watching the UFC. You know, we obviously were like, we knew we were good wrestlers, so we knew wrestlers are good in the UFC. But obviously you have to gather more skills than just wrestling.
Sure.
So that is when, you know, he decided to fight first, and then I followed him, and then we both became professional fighters.
Gotcha. The reason I wanted to bring that up is because, as I mentioned, I think there's probably young listeners, and I just want to encourage the young people that even if you don't currently have the funds to train or the coaches or the resources, if you have a dream and a passion, you can find your way. It takes a strong passion, a strong will, and eventually you can get into it. Because some people are like, "Oh, I don't have the money, or I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have anyone to show me the ropes," and they just give up. But you didn't have that either, but you still found your way into it. And I just want to encourage the young people not to give up so easily, that you can find your way into it. So then you created your own martial arts style. Is it like a hybrid of everything you learned, or you added something, like you channeled things into it?
Yeah, just like, you know, Bruce Lee said, you know, you take what you want from everything, and compile it into your own art. So as I started studying the different martial arts, that's what I started to do. I started to take, you know, different moves and put them together from different styles. And then I realized I was creating my own martial art, you know, because I was doing what Bruce Lee said, was taking things from each style and putting it into my own form. So that was when I came up with my martial art called Osirian Ninjutsu.
That's
And
awesome.
so
And I saw you shadow boxing. I saw a video. I thought it looked awesome, by the way. And I did see different elements of different things, but they work together very seamlessly. I may add it later when I produce this so people can see.
there's there's like there's, you know, there's judo in there, there's aikido, you know, there's Wing Chun, there's kung fu. So what else is there? You know, there's some other stuff too, but those are the main styles: boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, Wing Chun, Aikido, Judo. Um, so that's like seven styles right there.
That's right. So you said you trained in jiu-jitsu, but there's jiu-jitsu from Japan, and there's Brazilian jiu-jitsu that's a little more of like the grappling. Did you do both, or did you mean Brazilian jiu-jitsu?
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
And
Hmm.
how far did you get with that?
Well, I never actually started working for my belts. I just you know, I'm a wrestler, so I have ground skills, but I pretty much learned the moves on my own, you know, through a book, and then also I would go into the classes and learn moves from the classes. But I never actually stayed in a school and started my belts system in
Gotcha.
jujitsu.
Yeah, because you mentioned how um, well, let me get to that question later. So you mentioned how you actually, so when you first started, you first lost 7 or 8 fights in a row, and I was thinking to myself, after the third I probably would like reconsider, but you just stuck with it, and you continued. But then you were doing it all on your own. You didn't have anybody in your corner. That's another thing. I can't imagine going into the cage without anybody in my corner. I would be scared. But you went in by yourself for 8 fights. But I know you had God on your corner, so I completely understand that. But then you actually went to an MMA gym, and then you hired a coach, and then you won 8 fights in a row. So you completely turned it around. So that coach did something, and your training did something for you that completely changed things. So I would love to know specifically, what did the coach do for you that made such a big difference?
Yeah. So, when I did start out, I turned professional a little early in my career. I won my first 2 amateur fights, and then I just decided I wanted to go pro, a little early, and I wasn't skilled enough. I didn't have the skills, mainly in jujitsu, because I wasn't, in jujitsu, there's submission defense, and that was how I was losing my fights, was by submission. So I got the experience, though. I got the experience of fighting, which was experience is always good. But I was losing by submission. And so what happened was, I did go end up going to a gym and getting a coach, and this coach he's pretty renowned and prestigious. You go into his gym, and he's got like pictures of UFC fighters up everywhere, and so he's a good coach. And what he was able to do with me was just being in a gym. First of all, was what I needed to be, because you have partners there that push you, and you have a team there that supports you, and they're always you're supporting each other, you're rooting people on, you're helping each other up out. And that was something that I was missing in my career, was the team and the gym. To have the support. It's all about the support. And so when I got the support, I was able to, and then plus getting the skills too, because in a gym, you get the skills as well. I was able to turn around my career completely, and then win my next 8 fights in a row, which uh, everybody in the fight scene, they were pretty impressed by that, because that I had write-ups and papers and stuff about my turnaround, because no one had ever really heard of that before. Someone losing 8 fights and then turning it around and winning 8 in a row. So that was definitely a turnaround. But my determination and perseverance, throughout my career, that I learned in wrestling and stuff, was what kept me going, because I knew I could win. I just needed to keep fighting to get there, and then I finally did. So that was what happened there.
So I'm just curious, when you were those first initial 7 or 8 fights that you lost, did you get any injuries from the submissions or the fights?
No, that's one thing about my career, is I've had 37 fights, and the worst injury I've gotten is a broken finger.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Oh,
mean, I broke a broken nose too, actually, and a broken rib. So, but it's been minimal. I've always been been able to remain healthy
that's
to
good.
fight.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's really important. You have to be healthy to fight. That's the thing I think a lot of people don't realize who are just watching. Like I've been to a few live fights, and I see some fighters very, very cautious. They don't get in there and right away like make themselves available to be hit. They're very, very careful. And I hear the people like, "Oh, this fight sucks." I'm like, "You're not the one getting punched. Like, you know how
Mhm.
hard this is." So there's a lot of people who are judging from the position of never really been in a real fight, and they underestimate how healthy and how strong you have to be to even to do it at all, to even train, like much less be in a fight. So yeah, I can understand all that. um did you ever
Yeah, defense is the most important. You learn that as you go on in the learning. Defense, even once you get like further, you work more on defense. You just work way more on defense, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what I'm learning too. I'm not MMA fighting, but I'm training a lot in a variety of different things. And now, kind of like a little bit about me, I've always been I got into a lot of fights when I was a kid, but I'm a girl, so I was told I was raised in a traditional society, so I was told as a girl, I'm not supposed to be fighting. And so, so I'm sure you never heard that, but I was told that a lot. And you know, I was point blank told that the most important thing, mostly by well-intentioned people, they weren't trying to cause any harm or anything, but I was told by my mother's friends, the most important thing you're going to do with your body is produce a child. You should not be fighting. And in a way that maybe they're right, but it's like, yeah, but what about self-defense? So there's me and there's my child, and who's like, don't you think I need to be able to defend us? They weren't thinking like that. Traditional women didn't think like that. Well, things are kind of changing, so I'm fighting. I went back to my roots. My roots are, I guess, a little bit different.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, that's good. You shouldn't let people tell you, what you can and can't do. That will stop you. That will definitely stop you from doing things you want to do.
right. And just to be clear, I'm not any kind of feminist or anything. I just like the martial arts way. I feel like that's in my blood. So I feel like at least self-defense is really, really important for all women to have. Because, and some women are like, well, my husband will defend me. Well, is he there all of the time, 24/7? Absolutely not, right? So who's going to defend you in those moments when there's no one else there? So fundamentally, I think it's even more so, especially if you're going to have kids, you need to be able to defend yourself and your kids, even if your husband is a pro fighter or whatever. Anyway, that's just my little 2 cents on that. But let's come back to what you were talking about, your fighting experience. So, did you ever take performance enhancing drugs?
No.
So you're all natural.
Yes, definitely all natural. No performance enhancing drugs.
So I'm curious, how do you survive? I'm always worried about that because nowadays it seems like everybody is doing performance enhancing drugs, even if they say they don't. I assume they do, even the women. Some of these women, professional women, you look at them and you can tell those are not natural muscles. They are a little too large. They're just, when you see striations and all of the muscles when they move, like you can kind of tell. So
I've
have,
I've fought some guys that were definitely on something. But for me, it's always been a matter of the mind and spirit. Definitely. I'm a meditator, and so I'm always working on my mind and my thoughts and my mind, and um, you can change your physiology, with your mind. So I always tell myself, I'm in the best shape I'm in. I'm faster, I'm stronger, I'm smarter, and then that's what you become, with because the mind is the where it all is. So
I actually totally agree with that because there's even that movie. Oh, I love this movie. I think it's called Warrior. And it's about two brothers. I'm not going to spoil it or give away the ending, but it's about two brothers. One of them, I think he was a Navy SEAL or a Marine, really, really tough, very, very, very well built. And the other one is like, I think he's a coach, like a high school coach, a little thinner. And to make a very long story short, for a variety of reasons, they end up having to fight each other. They go into the same competition. One of them is doing it for the wrong reasons, and his mind is not right. The Navy SEAL, his mind is not good. He's doing all kinds of medications to try to get his mind in order. The meds aren't working, And the other one is doing it for family, like whatever happened to his money, it's not coming through. He has to provide for his family, and they end up having to fight. And the big and I'm not going to give away the ending, but I think you know the answer, right? The one who's got his heart in the right place and who's been training for the right reasons versus the one who's going in feeling guilty and ashamed of his past and is not mentally right, even though he is way bigger and way physically tougher. You can probably guess.
You got to have your mind right, and visualization is definitely key. Like, before fights, before competitions, you're visualizing. You see yourself winning. You see yourself executing the moves. Right, and that puts it in your mind before you go in there. So that the importance of visualization is not only important in fighting but in actual life too. So because if you visualize anything before you do it, you're going to do it better, like that's for sure.
And that's a really important point you made. So how do you translate everything you learned in martial arts and MMA and your training and the Marines and bring it into your life? How do you use your martial arts philosophy in pro-social ways in life?
One thing is, first thing is just never quitting, just never quitting, and always moving forward. I learned that in the Marine Corps. You just and in fighting too, because as soon as you quit, you're done. And in life, if you have an idea or something like that, or a dream, as soon as you quit or let someone else come in and tell you that you can't do it, it's done and it will never happen. So you can't let that affect you. You got to just keep persevering, and never quit. And
Absolutely.
that will coincide into life too, because once you set goals and stuff, and you start to feel how it feels to fulfill them and achieve them, that is the reward that you get for focusing on something and then making it happen.
I think what you said is very, very important. It's about focusing the mind. So when I was growing up, I did not have a lot of role models. I did not have any female role models. I didn't see any that I liked personally. It didn't mean they didn't exist, but I didn't really see that many. Maybe a little bit Mother Teresa, but that's unreachable. Who's going to be Mother Teresa? I mean, so my role model was Rocky. I loved Rocky. It like if Rocky did something or if he said something, I would be doing it. When I was like 12 or 13. Rocky was the reason that I started to like wake up at like 5 or 6 in the morning, and I'd go outside and I'd run. No music. I didn't have anything like that at that time. I didn't have a Walkman or anything. We just immigrated to this country. We didn't have anything. So I'd go outside and everybody was asleep, and I'd be running, and I'd do push-ups, and I started working out. He's the reason I started to run track. And I think track actually saved me, because when I was in high school, you could buy drugs on campus. Even all of everybody that I knew, all of the kids, the smart kids that were getting good grades, the athletes, they were all doing drugs, but I wasn't. I definitely, and part of it was because of some of the role models that I chose, and some of it was me myself, because I knew that was damaging. I just knew that. Where did that come from? How do I know what's in it? Okay, so let's say you die. Who do you, or let's say you get very, very sick, you get paralyzed. Who do you go to? Who do you go to now, not soon necessarily, but who do you blame for this? Nobody but yourself. So I never got into any of that, because I saw how dangerous it is. Even if I didn't see necessarily all the scientific research that was done later, but I just knew intuitively not to. But there's a lot of young kids who are foolish. Like my son is almost 14, and he's got a lot of friends. They're not bad kids. They're actually good kids, but how foolish. Like a conversation I had recently with some of them is, I was telling them, you really shouldn't eat junk food, because it's eventually will lead to degenerative diseases. You're gonna, eventually will lead to cancer, Alzheimer's, dementia. You're gonna have, if you want to run track, some of them are running track or trying to do other athletics. I'm like, you're not gonna be able to perform if this is how you eat. And a lot of them are like, I don't care. Why should I care? I'm like, well, when you get all those diseases, you're
They
gonna
will, yeah, yeah. When they get older, they'll care. That's
yeah,
for
when you can't when you can't have kids, or when your kids are sick, or when you start to have brain damage, when you have tumors all over your body, you're gonna start caring then. And then they start to think a little bit. I'm like, okay, think of it like this. If you were walking down the street and somebody was attacking you, mugging you and attacking and about to kill you, would you care about that? They're like, yeah, no, probably not. Probably wouldn't get. I'm like, you would just lie down, yeah. And this person was serious. I'd probably just give them what they want. I'm like, this is why your generation is effed. You don't care to even defend yourself. I wasn't
sure.
like that. There's
That's why we're getting controlled right now too, is because the fight has been taken out of us. So that's
exactly, exactly. And I think that that was already happening in my generation, but it didn't affect me as bad. And I think that's why I liked Rocky, because he was like, you got to keep fighting no matter what happens. And a lot of these kids, it's like they don't even, yeah, like I would just give this mugger whatever they want, and I'd probably just lie down. I probably wouldn't care. I'm like, why? It's like, it's just I don't care. I'm like, this is the definition of being asleep and being a slave. When you're so dominated and the life has been sucked out of you that you don't care even to defend your own life. But you're here, yet you're here. So what are you going to do? And then it turned out that the reason they feel like that is because they hate their existence so much. Like we hate being here. Everything sucks. We'd rather die. I'm like, but listen, you're gonna come back. They think if they die, they get to just be free finally and feel good. I'm like, and go to heaven. I'm like, no, you're gonna reincarnate and come back and do this shit again.
yep. Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like,
If you didn't get what you were supposed to get this time around, you will come back again. So
that's right. And some people think
that's why you wanna finish your unfinished business that you
that
came here.
That's it. I think that people don't realize that suicide is not a way out. Whatever problem you had that made you want to get out and exit, you will come back. There's many reasons as to why, but I can almost guarantee you 99.9% chance you're going to come back. You're going to be reborn in a similar situation, facing all the same problems until you face them head on and actually learn to deal with them. And eventually you're going to face the enemy, whoever you thought the enemy was, and you're going to have to fight that being or that person or whatever that is, and you're going to have to learn how to win. You can't just lie down and let whatever happens. You're going to have to learn to fight and win. A lot of people don't want to hear that, but like, this is just my experience here. I'm just telling you my little wisdom. This is why it behooves you to train in martial arts. It behooves you to have more self-care. You can't just treat yourself like a piece of garbage and let whatever be done to you. You have to take care of the self. God created the self for a reason, for you to learn to be a good steward of the self. MMA is not just about like, oh, I'm gonna go kick this guy's ass. I mean, for a lot of people, they think that's what it is, but that's not what it is to me. It's an opportunity to test yourself. How well did you train in these martial arts? How well did you train to defend yourself? And there is a higher purpose to all this. And I think every person has to define that higher purpose for themselves. And there's this lack of definition, lack of thinking about themselves in this generation. It's very, very sad. Maybe in some very religious groups that's not the case, but my son goes to a regular public school, and these kids are just zombied out. It's horrible. Have you experienced that, Anthony?
Well, yeah, every day. I mean, I'm aware of the situation. I'm aware of the situation here. We're doing what we can to waken people back up to who they are, actually, to their divinity. Because what is true is that we are actually divine, you know, creatures that are spiritual beings that are connected to source all the time, but that's being taken out of us. And what I've understood is the universe is what is called a God factory. And through reincarnation and through evolution, it actually is making souls into gods, because every soul has the capacity in them to become God through the hero's journey. And because that's what I understand is the process that's happening. And whether we're aware of it or not, that's what achieving gnosis is all about, is achieving uh, gnostic enlightenment, which is you are God. You know, that's what we got to remember here. Like we're creating this experience. You know, you're creating your experience, I'm creating my experience with my thought and my mind, because um that's what the universe is we're collectively dreaming, you know what I'm saying, this dream, but we're actually each experiencing an individual dream, because we're all individual minds that make up the collective mind, which we would call God.
That's a very interesting concept. Of course, it's not new to me because I studied spirituality and religions and esoteric stuff for very, very many years, since my 20s, so over 20 years. So I like the idea that we're evolving to be able to be creators or co-creators. I think a lot of people are not thinking like that at all. They don't see themselves as creative. Very unfortunately, I think a lot of people see themselves as consumers, and the only choices they make in their life is what they're going to consume, and because that's easy. Creating is hard because you have to think and you have to, come up with something new. And this is why I think that martial arts can be very, very creative, because when you're in that situation of chaos, a real fight is chaos, you ultimately, and I don't mean in training but in real life, ultimately you either come up with a solution that leads to you surviving or you die. You have to be creative in the moment. And I think that's, to me, that's like the ultimate form of.
Yeah, and to be creative you have to have knowledge too. You know, the knowledge is important to have.
Knowledge is very important. Well, that brings me to, I learned something recently that was like a light bulb over my head. So The Art of War, right? That book, which I've read many times, I'm sure you have as well. Turns out art is a mistranslation. It turns out that in the original Chinese, what it really said is the technology of war. And when I thought about it, that totally makes sense, because art is something open-ended. And it made me believe that, well, as long as I'm creative, I'll find a way. I'll figure it out. Well, it turns out it's not enough to just be creative. Yes, being creative is very important, but you have to have the methodology and the techniques and the mechanics and know how the systems work, and be able to master those systems in order to win. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a different paradigm, to have the technology to win. That you know what I mean? So yeah, you have
Yeah,
to have the knowledge.
you are the technology. I mean, that's the thing, is this body, this mind, you know, that we have, we're the very highly advanced technology.
Okay,
You
so
know,
talk about that, because a lot of people don't understand that part either. Most people don't know anything about their own anatomy. They just like, well, I go to my doctor. The doctor will tell me if I need something. They have no idea how anything actually works. So can you talk a little more about that? Why are we the most advanced technology?
it will just being divine and having a soul, you know, in a mind, in because this is a, I'm piloting this body right now with my mind, and so this is a vehicle, you know, and the more you know, the more advanced, you know, your vehicle will be, and you can uh, be spiritually, physically, emotionally, and mentally uh, evolved and advanced. The more you know in those realms. So um, th- that's very important, that you're able to operate this vehicle uh, to the best that you can.
And you just mentioned something else that's really important. You mentioned you have a soul and a mind. People can probably agree, yeah, I guess I have a mind. If they go to a therapist, their therapist will do, mental therapy with them. But a lot of people don't care about the soul. This made me very, very sad when I realized this. Again, when I was growing up, people did care about the soul and spirit. But now when I talk to people now, a lot of them don't know that they have a soul and don't care. And if I tell them, the choices that you make can harm your soul, don't care. As long as it makes me money and I feel comfortable, why do I care about the soul? So what would you say to someone like that who says, I don't care about my soul, I don't care what happens to it?
Well, I would be like, you should, you know, I'd be like, you definitely should, because the soul is pretty much the proof of an afterlife, you know, where you go after this, you know, and what you do after this. You know, what you do here now depends on what you're gonna do after this, you know, in the next life. And knowing that you have a soul lets you know that you go on after this, you know, so that makes it important to you, what you're doing here, what you're doing now, what you're thinking, all that stuff, because it's gonna lead into your what you do your next life. So you should definitely be aware of that and what
What
you're
if
doing.
someone says, I don't really care about my next life? I'm not there. When I'm there, I'll figure it out. All I care about is being comfortable here and now.
I would say, well, most people don't care about what they do in their next life, but
Problem,
but
yeah.
that's
And
the
that's why
thing
they're
is,
de-evolving. I have to say that's why they're de-evolving, because they're making bad decisions that lead them into bad directions, but they only find out in the next life, but then they don't remember what they did that got them into the bad situation. And they're like, why is God doing this to me? I'm like, you're doing this to yourself,
mhm, it's true, it's
right?
true, it's true, and remembering is what we're here to do. So that, I mean, I'm remembering who I am, more and more every day, because that's another thing is past lives and stuff like that. I do remember past lives, so that's how I know about reincarnation. That's how I know about the soul, and I'm bringing that knowledge here to other people to help them too, um, to let them know that there is life after death. You know what I'm saying? Which is a very important thing to address, because
Absolutely.
yeah, most
Yeah.
people don't know. That's the great mystery, the great, you know what I'm saying? What happens when we die? um, I actually know that we go, to the other side. We decide what we're gonna do in the next life, and then we come back, in another body. And then sometimes that's the thing is you do choose whether you remember your stuff from your past life or you don't. So that's why you'll see people not remembering who they were, and then you'll see other people that do remember.
That's right. And I think in some cultures, like in India, where their religion precludes past lives, they all know, they know there's past lives. People are much more likely to remember them. And a lot of times kids remember quite a few of their past lives. And for the people who are going, oh, it's a bunch of bullshit, there's no past lives. I'm going to bring up an article that I read, how this kid in India, he remembered who killed him in a past life. So the 6 or 7 year old kid goes to his parents and said, this was the man who killed me in a past life. He hit me in the head with an axe, and he buried the axe over here, and he buried the body over here. And then the police was called, and over there they believe in all that stuff. So they dug up the axe, they dug up the body, and the kid identified the killer. And the killer was so scared of gods that he confessed and said, yeah, actually, the kid is right. I did that. So that just proves that at least some of this is true. So someone can't just say, well, it's all bullshit. Because how could this 6 year old know all those facts that then were proven forensically by the police?
hmm And that's the thing is, like, children are more they have the propensity, the more to be psychic before they're affected by this system that's made to take the spirituality out, all that stuff. So all kids are coming in like psychic, but then they're bombarded by the system, and then their abilities are taken away from them. Like for me, I've maintained being psychic my whole life, so I've always had that connection to the other side. Always when I remember my past, when I was 6 years old, I was having past lives of Egypt, coming in. I'm having I see and talk to dead people in my dreams and stuff, and these are all abilities that are part of being psychic. So you can maintain those ability too through spiritual practice, which is one of the things that I do through martial arts too. I think it's very important that we uh, stay connected. Stay connected to the to this to what's real.
Absolutely. And you know, so I've trained in a few different gyms. I'm kind of a nomad. I've been just not conscious, not deliberately, but I've been going from gym to gym, just trying to learn different martial arts, try to study with different teachers, different modalities, and integrating. And I noticed that a lot of when I was first introduced to martial arts, I got into it because I saw how spiritual it is, that there is really incredible spiritual riches within the martial arts philosophy that are, I want to say, pure, like very, very humanitarian, like deep down, very heart centered, deep down. But yes, martial arts can also be very violent, and you can kill with martial arts too. But the point of martial arts, ultimately, to me, why I got into it was because it was about protecting and preserving life, and I see life as sacred and that should be preserved and protected. And as I've been going from gym to gym, even though I've had some really good coaches, I'm not disparaging any gym whatsoever. They were all good for different reasons. Thankfully, I haven't been to a gym that I thought was terrible. Yeah, I had a few bad experiences, but not because the gym or the coach was bad, but like some people were bad. Let's put it that way. But my point is that I felt like a lot of it was extremely physical, a little bit mental, and almost nothing spiritual. I'm like, but that's not why I got into this. And I really miss the martial arts that's spiritual. And I almost wonder, like my mentor of 9 years, he was a shamanic practitioner. I think he was born before the war, so I know he knew how to shoot a gun. I'm sure he was probably had some martial arts and at least paramilitary, if not military training. But he was very heart-centered. He taught a very spiritual type of psychic self-defense art to me. And that's why I gravitated to that. And so what, but he told me this is a dying art. And I'm like, well, let's bring it back. Let's not let it die. But how, and this is why I like talking to you, because you are very spiritual, and yet you're doing very physical martial art, MMA. I mean, it's one of the most brutal, probably, and yet you're also very spiritual. How are you marrying the two, and why aren't other people doing it?
Well, I'll just say, like, one thing that does make you spiritual is like almost dying, near death experiences will bring you to more of a spirituality. So a lot of people aren't having near death experiences because I mean, I was in war, I was in Fallujah and stuff like that. So I experienced some things where I was afraid for my life, and that did make me more spiritual. So that experiencing that definitely made me seek God, more, and that connection with God. And that that is the more I learned about that, the more I learned about my purpose, and why I was here. And that was to be a warrior, like I like being a warrior. And so that learning that is how I was able to merge, them together was my seeking of God,
You
like
know,
in my purpose,
I
my
think you're
purpose.
absolutely right. I think you are absolutely right that when you face death, whether you cross that line and actually die and come back, or you almost die and it makes you it changes you, right? I think you're right, that does make you more spiritual. And on one hand, I don't want war. I wish we didn't need it and we didn't have it. But realistically, I think that in some way we need those kinds of initiations of some form where people do face their own mortality, because people grow up then. And if people don't have those initiations, they stay infantile, and they don't spiritually grow. And how can we have like the ancient Egyptians, they had those initiations, like swim through the alligators. If you die, oh my goodness,
I remember being
yeah.
in the mystery school. So
And it's like those things would be illegal now, but it's like you have to swim through the alligators, and if you die, well, I guess you weren't worthy. Like that's illegal now. But having to do that can make you more enlightened. And so, what can we do? And then how can we have a society where we don't endanger people's lives, but we give them an opportunity for initiations where they genuinely have to face their mortality, because otherwise people don't grow.
Well, we really actually don't have to do anything because we're getting an initiation right now. You know, we're in an initiation, and the thing is actually sooner or later we're gonna get tired of what obviously we're getting tired of it now, and that is gonna lead to our evolution. You know, to the next stage is when we in our consciousness uh, goes up high enough, you know, and we are ready to evolve to the next level um, through the initiation of what we're experiencing here on this earth. That's when we'll go to the next level.
Do you think
When
everyone right
we
now is, do you think everyone, like every single person on the planet right now, is getting an initiation?
yes, yes.
What kind of an initiation is it?
It's a initiation into like the mysteries of life and consciousness, you know, and awareness, and actually um just being alive, what being alive is like, you know, and what being free is too, because we are getting an initiation into understanding that we have been enslaved. You know what I'm saying?
Enslaved by who?
And by the hierarchy that enslaves us, and it would also be known as the corporatocracy. All the corporations that are like Mark uh, Bezos, Zuckerberg, you know, or what's his name? What's his name? The Tesla guy.
Oh, Elon Musk.
Yeah, Musk. All these billionaires, trillionaires, run a corporatocracy that is actually involved in enslaving us, though. So they give us, you know, all the technologies, you know, to just dumb us down, and so we never rise up and have a revolution, because that's what this world needs more than anything is a worldwide revolution, and that's what they're afraid of, which is actually going to be inevitable. They can't stop it from happening. They've been trying to like stop it, you know, and put it off. But it's through what is called the dialectical evolution of the universe. We are going to awaken to who we are, and we are going to overthrow the elite at some time. That time is on us, you know, when we want to come together, you know, because that's what they've done is they've split us apart. But
You
that
know,
yeah, that
I have some friends who I talk to them, and they're, you know, I've been in some rabbit holes, but they're even in deeper rabbit holes. And when I mention something like that to them, they're like, you know, the common person isn't going to do anything. They're not capable of a revolution. They want their junk food. They want their devices. They're tired. They want to go to work and get their paycheck and sit in front of the TV because they're tired. They don't really want change. What would you say to that? Is that true?
yeah, it is true. But from what I've done and understood through a lot of studying, is it only takes 10% of something to change the rest of people's minds. So that's what we're really looking for is 10% of the consciousness of the world going to the next level, because then other people will start following.
Would you
You
say
know
you're
what I'm
part of that
saying?
10%?
I am definitely part of that 10%.
And so I would say I am too. I don't necessarily want a bloody revolution, but if it came to it, I know it's a fight to the death. I already accepted my fate. You know, like the Roman slogan, "Amor fati." I accept my destiny. I know I'm here to be a warrior. I already surrendered to that. So if it came to it, it is a fight to the death. But I hope I don't ever have to go there. I hope that I can of, you know, communicate with love, and I hope that I'm heard. But I'll be honest with you, a lot of times I'm not heard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's real and it's serious, and you know, you're either going to choose freedom or being enslaved, And that's just where we're at now, and we have to fight for that freedom because there have been revolutions in the past, American Revolution, French Revolution, and there's going to be another revolution in the future. And it's going to be like, where are you at? Are you going to be with the revolution? Are you going to be one of the ones in the middle that doesn't care, or are you going to be the ones that are doing the enslaving? Those are the three places where you know you can be. And I'm choosing to be part of the revolution.
Part of the revolution. I think I inevitably have to be that because I just find too many things unacceptable. So today I saw a meme. I'll just describe it to you. Someone posted it on Facebook, and it shows a soldier hugging, I guess, his fiance, and it said, "When the war is over, we'll get married, and the earth will grow flowers like you, and your womb will carry the most beautiful girl in the universe." And this is a letter found in the pocket of one of the dead soldiers in 1939. It's very sad. It's very romantic. But look now, the birth rates are plummeting. A lot of people are not getting married. Those that are getting married aren't staying married. But it's changing, and some of the people are getting married and having kids. But our society is definitely going through a crisis. We can call it a crisis. Whether things are getting worse or getting better, that's questionable, because some things are getting worse, some things are getting better, but things are definitely changing. But what I responded, and this is my sincere observation, is that the real reason everything is so shitty. I'm here in New York City. It's very dilapidated. It's like the subways are dirty, disgusting, rats everywhere, garbage everywhere. And like America is kind of slowly becoming a second or third world country somehow. And I'm not the only one saying it. Yeah, obviously there are some places that are very nice, and there's a lot of places that are not nice at all. They're very dangerous. Their resources are scarce, and people are having a hard time. And I wrote that the real reason everything is so shitty, dirty, and falling apart. And if you just like Google hashtag civilization collapse, there's a lot of posts on the subject from smart people. Even university researchers that are can give you statistics and data of how our society is going through, at least a part of it is going through a collapse. And it's because the war never ended. This great war, it's raging on, it's invisible, it's quiet, but it's more deadly than ever. And I think there's even a book, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars with Invisible Enemies for Unspeakable Crimes. I say that a lot. I've made multiple posts about it. And so a lot of, we were talking about how people just don't care. They don't care about change. The reason they don't care about change is because they don't realize they're in a war. They think that the business as usual is quite okay. They're in their comfort zone, but their comfort zone is like, slowly shrinking their world, and it's so slow they don't realize it. But after a while, they start to realize it. It's like, wow, I have less and less money. I have less and less resources. I have less and less freedom. I have less and less knowledge. My world is atrophying. I am becoming smaller, literally in every way possible. But now it's a little bit late, because now it's many generations of this shrinkage until you become nothing. So you got to start fighting at some point. And you got to, this path of self-mastery, you got to start it somewhere. And this precipice where people realize that they can't take it anymore, that if they don't start doing something, if they don't start fighting, they will die. And if not them, their kids will, or it's going to be worse than death. Yeah, worse than death. What can be worse than death? Torture, absolute horrific, nightmarish existence could be worse than death. Death is like nothing. That would be peace, right?
Yeah, that's what's worse than death is
absolutely. That's what people don't realize. It can be worse than death. You can live in a nightmarish reality that's worse than death if you don't fight for yourself. And I think I'm trying to wake people up to that now for I don't know how many decades. And I'm met with deer in the headlights stare. What do you mean? And so the mastery has to start somewhere. And I think it starts where people realize that you have to start where you're at. You have to start fighting for at least what you have. The little bit that you have, you got to start fighting for it, right? And then maybe you can win. And if you can't, basically, if we don't win this war, I think the next level is significantly worse. It's a, you know, if this is like a video game and this is nightmare level, then the next step for people who didn't fight, absolute nightmare, hellish, where there's no freedom, just hell on it. I'm not going to be there. I know I'm not going to be there, but somebody will be there, and I, you know, and maybe that's what they need. Maybe that's how they're gonna wake up. Maybe that's what
Well,
will.
it only does take one generation to change the world, and that's, you know, we are who we are, and we're looking to inspire, you know, the younger generation, because they're going to be the ones that inherit the earth. So really, they're the kids, and are the most important ones to get through to, you know,
I agree.
with the self mastery, with just, you know, becoming who they are really here to be, you
That
know,
that's
and
that's
not the way the corporate machine wants to just make, you know, you a number and stuff like that, you know, like you are a spirit and a soul coming in here to make a difference in the world, you know, and that's what we need to remember.
well. So you mentioned that, and I agree with that. But I think that's just part of it because there are other movements that are seen to be counter to that, but in fact they're part of the same thing. Like there was the big New Age thing, and a lot of these New Ages went into socialism, where socialism is just part of the machine. A lot of them were like, "Oh, just love and light, just meditate, just attract different." I'm like, that doesn't ultimately work. You have to take action. So a lot of these movements got, you know, ushered into the wrong directions, right back into becoming slaves, and they didn't. It was so slow they didn't realize it happened. What do you think about that?
Yeah, same things that you hit that right on the head. You know, the movements all had, you know, benevolent intentions on changing things, but you know, it doesn't get the job done. You know, the just the whole love and light, you know, thing, that's not getting the job done. Like the self mastery and just and gaining as much knowledge, the red pill, you know, fully accepting the red pill, because and having the courage to do that is really the only way that we're gonna get out of this. And it is a the red pill, the whole thing about the red pill, that is a spiritual choice that you can take, because um like on a higher level it's known who's decided that, you know, who's decided to become the one, who has decided to become Neo, you know, through the hero's journey, and escape the matrix. And then once you are able to master that, then you can then show other people how to have the freedom to live, which is part of the hero's journey. So that's the mission.
That is the mission. Yeah. So the mission of a spiritual warrior, the way I define it, the way my mentors define it, is to transform darkness into light. I've heard other people say to bring light to the darkness. I like the word transform more because there's something in that darkness. It's not just an empty space. There is this something there, and often it scares people. Well, you got to take that scary. You got to take that yuck. You got to take that awful, scary place and transform it, you know, actually through your own life, right? Is that how you see it?
Yeah, that's definitely how I see it. That's how I experience it too. You know, because I have chosen the light. You know, and coming into this world of darkness, as we all did. But my path and my way has led me like to the light, and it's sustaining me. You know, it's getting me further in my progression in my life, you know, personally, so I can pass it on, because that passing on the knowledge is the most important thing that we have. All the knowledge that I got, like I gotta pass it on. I have to pass it on. You know, that's what I understand. We're here to do too, is to pass on what we learn. You know.
Absolutely. And the way my mentor says, you got to pass the medicine. What all the knowledge and the wisdom that you actually sort of you know, like you go through a lot of experiences, and a lot of it is chaotic and turmoil and suffering, but you eventually distill it. You distill it into some essence, some crystallized knowledge and wisdom. And my mentors called it medicine. That's and the shamans call it the medicine. And that's what you got to pass on. Don't pass on the trauma. Don't inflict the suffering onto others that you got. You gotta transform that into essential wisdom and pass on the wisdom, and that will come back to you manyfold. But if you pass on the suffering, the trauma, and the abuse, that will come back to you manyfold too. So be careful what you pass on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the basics, right? Well, coming back to, the body needs healthy food. We can't have knowledge, we can't live, we can't fight, we can't stick around long enough to do any of this unless we have healthy food. So I wanted to ask you, especially when you fight, I mean, it's very taxing on the body. Just me training is taxing on my body. What is your diet like, and do you take supplements?
The thing with me is I never really was focused on my diet. I just, pretty much ate what gave me energy, chicken, meat, rice, vegetables, everything that was, good for me to eat that would sustain me. I've never really been one to really focus on my diet. The more I get older though, the more I realize how important that is. You know what I'm saying? To know what you're putting in your body, what it's doing to you, because you do, like, as you get older, you do start to feel things differently, and I'm starting to understand how important it is to know what you're putting in your body and what it does to you. So I'm learning in that realm.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, but it sounds like you eat generally healthy. I mean, chicken and vegetables and rice, that's pretty standard, but that's pretty healthy. Like, do you ever eat junk food?
I mean, time to time, but that's the thing, is like the more I'm getting older, the more I'm realizing I don't want to be putting what I don't want in my body, because yeah.
Do you take any supplements at all?
Um, here and there, I'll take supplements and stuff. I do need to start taking more, so I can get that nutrients and all that stuff in my body that I'm not getting. Because I want I
Absolutely.
want to be I want to be optimal. Like the
Absolutely.
older I get, the more optimal I want to be.
Well, I've had to learn all of this the hard way because I have one of these really sensitive bodies where I ran track when I was in high school, and unfortunately I had all these mercury fillings and vaccines and all this crap, and I was a good student, so I was following the food pyramid that they were teaching us at that time, which is all wrong, and it was making me so sick, and I wanted to compete, so I had to learn. I already started to study it at that time, and then I mastered it since then. So I have learned a lot about nutrition and supplementation. So if you want to know, just ask me. I can help you with that because I had to get all of that down. I've been on my own guinea pig, and I had to figure all that out for myself for a long time.
If you want to know something, it's always good to know somebody that knows what you want to know.
Yeah, I really studied this because any small amount, like I can't eat, like if I drink tap water within hours, I'm very, very sick. A smallest amount of poison, I'm very sick very, very quickly. And a lot of people don't feel it. So they could be poisoning themselves for years. If they took a blood test or if they took certain tests, it would show on their test, but they don't feel it. Whereas with me, I feel everything. I feel if I feel that, if I'm like I can't eat anything, any kind of junk food right away. I'm like I'd probably be vomiting and sick. Like my body doesn't tolerate. Like it has to be really pure, basically, and that's how I know if I take a really good supplement, I feel that right away too. And with me, there's no gray area. Either like if I eat something that's not good, I'm totally dysfunctional. Can't, like so sick, vomiting. And if I'm eating healthy and taking the right supplements, I'm performing at like a 10 out of 10. There's no gray area. It's nothing or it's everything.
Hmm.
And I think it's because I'm built like a warrior, where my system is so sensitive to my ability to perform that anything that would deter me from my performance, it rejects it. Like, and as a kid, I remember like being sick so often because I was being fed a bunch of gluten and a bunch of garbage, a bunch of wheat. And I just remember even in school vomiting so often. I'm like, why was I so sick? Well, now I understand why, because they were feeding me all this the standard American diet. Although I grew up in a different country, but it's the same thing. It was still junk. School food unfortunately is garbage. Hospital food is garbage. And it comes back to corporatocracy. These schools and these hospitals. They're run just like
And
corporations.
the money's not going where it should be going,
Wow.
you know, but that'll change. That's going to change in the future. So yeah.
Exactly. So a couple of years ago, you did a show with a guy named Taino. It was about 2 years ago, and people can look it up. It's a really good show. You gave a lot of really interesting information, still relevant. And you mentioned that you were meditating, and through meditation, you manifested like some MMA store or something that opened up near you, and they started to sponsor your MMA journey, which is incredible. So, how did you get that sponsorship, and what happened to that?
Okay, so this is important to address though, because this experience that I had does show the power of the mind, you know, which people need to understand how powerful your mind is. It's not just not doing anything; it's creating everything. And when you focus it, you can literally create matter, you know, because that's the mind is responsible for creating matter. Um, and so what happened was I was practicing a certain meditation practice where I would get up every day and I made an image of what I wanted my dream to be. You know, like pretty much I made an image of what I wanted my dream to represent. Like, and then I focused on that image every day. You know, and like in my meditation, I would focus on that image every day, and it was to have my future like come to me. I wanted my future to come to me. And so what happened was, as I was meditating every day, this was in a town that was a very small town. You know, it was a small town, had like two stoplights in it. Um, I was meditating every day, and then a store opens up right next to me, and this store is called the Time Machine. Okay, and so that was the first little clue, you know what I'm saying, that I was making something happen, you know, in my reality. And so then what happened was I kept doing it every single day. And then right below me, a store opened up, and they were selling MMA gear, you know, and they were like sponsoring people in the area and stuff. So it's just like I don't think that was just a coincidence, you know, that an MMA store opens up right beneath me. And then they ended up actually sponsoring me for some of my biggest fights that I had. So that was pretty cool. And then what happened was I just kept doing it, and I still do it to this day. You know, I haven't stopped. So what I kept doing it, and then what happened was a holistic healer opened up a store right next to this MMA store, and so then this was the healing that I needed, you know, for my journey that I was manifesting. And the woman's name that was ran the store was Magic.
Can't make this up.
No, that's what I'm saying. So that's what I want to say to people with the power of the mind is like if you focus on something hard enough, it will come to you. Like it will come to you. And like if you want to change your life, if you want to change something about your life, you just gotta focus on it because there's already a reality where that is happening, and you just gotta bring it to you with your mind.
I've had some of that stuff in the past as well. Um, and I think another thing that people need to understand why they should care about the soul, because ultimately, and the shamans teach this, you know, right constantly. That's all they teach is that it's actually the soul that creates reality. It's not the body. The body is also created by the soul. The soul is a very beautiful ancient living being that has had many past lives, will have many future lives. It's on a journey. It's just having a transitionary experience here, and it's the soul that creates your experience. So why should you care about your soul and grow your soul and protect your soul? Because that's the battery that's going to power up your journey and power up your dreams and manifestations. The mind is what kind of gives it forms, or it's like the computer that interprets the reality that you're experiencing, but the soul is the power that powers it up. And as a shamanic energy practitioner, when I've done a lot of soul retrievals for people in the past, my clients, a lot of when they were first starting to work with me, their main complaint was they didn't have any IQ issues, they didn't have any mental health issues, but they're like, I'm working so hard, I'm trying to manifest, I do all this stuff, but then at the last minute everything falls apart. I don't understand why. And it's because they've had a lot of trauma in the past that caused them to have something that shamans call soul loss. They've had a lot of parts of their soul that they lost. And then in the work that they were doing with me, we retrieved a lot of those soul parts. And when they had those soul back, it completely changed their life. They were finally able to manifest some of the things that they wanted to for years or decades. And no amount of talk therapy could have done that, you know?
And then when you do manifest, because actually there's this book right here. It's actually called A Master's Key for Manipulating Time. But when you do manifest and you actually have that experience, you actually change the past. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you have an experience where you manifested something, and then you actually change the past. So that's how you can actually change things in your past, is by manifesting things here and now.
That's right. My shamanic mentor actually did teach me that technique. And when he was first teaching it to me, I'm like, come on, is that real? And then what, eventually then I researched it and I'm like, a lot of other people are doing it. Like the Silva method, they were doing that too. But
Hmm.
when my mentor taught it to me, it's actually not that. If you like, I think I have a propensity. I have ancestors from Siberia, so I think I have a propensity for shamanic arts. When he taught it to me, it was natural to me. But I was very skeptical. Come on, did you really change my past? But the way is it changes things in the present. If you really changed your past, your present just somehow changes. And like the whole Mandela effect that people have been experiencing, that's the collective changing of the past.
Hmm.
And who knows, there's a variety of reasons why some people would have wanted to change the past or whatever, but the point is it's possible that it does. And that's how you'll know is these sudden changes in the present. But people chalk it up, like literally in front of me, people have had healings, including my own father, my father was a mathematician, very logical, wasn't into anything esoteric whatsoever, a really, really smart, high IQ guy, but never got into anything spiritual. And I took him to a chiropractor one time, and he had all this horrible pain, and the chiropractor did some stuff, and the pain went away, and he got better, and he was able to walk better, fast. And he's like, "No, I think it's just coincidence." I'm like, "You just had a healing done to you, you witnessed it and experienced it, and he still didn't believe that that was possible." I'm like, some people just like
Yeah.
they,
Yeah. It is the way it is, though.
some
So
people are like that. Yeah, it's very hard to reach some people, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about the super soldier stuff. So people who do a lot of super soldier missions, some say they happen at night. You get picked up at night. When you're supposed to be sleeping, and you do a mission. It's usually difficult. You exert yourself, even if it's psychic. Still, I've done a lot of psychic and spiritual work for many years, and I've done exorcisms. It's the heavy lifting of spiritual and psychic work. It's hard. That's why a lot of people can't do it. A lot of people give up and they say they can't do this work because it's hard. And I do heavy lifting literally in the gym. So I can attest that doing exorcisms is like this heavy lifting of psychic work. Well, doing the super soldier stuff is the heavy lifting on steroids. Like it's really, really hard. You exert yourself, especially if you almost die. And some people do die. Like Randy Kramer talks about how you actually die many times and they bring you back. That's a whole other show of how they do that, but they can do that. They have technology to bring you back. Still, that's in your cells. The fact that you did that's in your cells. It's in your DNA, and you lose power. You lose energy when you do that. And so by morning, it's like you did 15,000 workouts, at a human level. How do you then replenish yourself to then have energy, like live and then fight when you lose so much in the missions that you do?
Yeah, that's a good question. And my secret, my secret is meditation. That is what I do, though, because I will get taken for missions at night, and then when I'm returned, I will be pretty out of it. You know, like it will be noticeable like that. I'm like, whoa, like like what's going on? But then I've gotten into such a pattern and stuff of just going into my meditation that I'm able to just revive my energy just like that. You know, I could just sit in meditation for 3 minutes right here and then I'm good to go. You know, it's a technique, it's something that I've learned that vitalizes me more so than I see a lot of other people, because a lot of people are having like problems, like they're tired, you know,
Oh, very
they're
serious problems. Oh yeah, yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. Like that's how I maintain like my energy
Well, and the
is
worst in terms of like the community of the people who are, and there is, maybe our audience doesn't know, but there's a whole community of people who know they are super soldiers, who know they are assets to the secret space programs, and there's a whole kind of movement. It's a subculture, and a lot of them have very serious health issues, like autoimmune issues, and not beyond just exhausted and tired, like chronic fatigue and headaches all the time, and some of them are in disability, like they literally can't even function because they're performing all these missions at night when they should be sleeping. I mean, talk about messing with your circadian rhythms. It really shouldn't be legal, but it is, and you know what I mean.
well, it's not legal. It's not legal.
Well, our
That
governments are getting away with it. They're
yeah,
getting away
it's
with it.
illegal. It's true. It's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
Yeah.
They would tell you they would tell you what they're doing is legal because it's all by agreement.
Hmm.
So
Well, yeah.
yeah, it should not be. Well, the shadow government, they do whatever they want. They make their own rules, right?
Hmm.
So meditate. For how many years have you been meditating?
It's been about since 2015, so like 9 years.
Oh wow, that's good.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's
I started to.
every day, every single day.
Oh, that's so smart. No, that's really smart. I think I started to meditate not regularly, probably 20 about years ago, but I really didn't know what I was doing. Even though meditation is pretty simple, it's one of the simpler arts to do. But believe it or not, it takes some time to master it. I started to meditate every single day about 5 or 6 years ago. And my God, my life really changed. That's if anyone can take anything out of this whole show. I mean, I hope there's a lot of takeaways, but that meditation is one of the best things you can do for lots of a variety of issues and symptoms. It can help with anything. And I
Just
started.
like yeah, just starting off like a little bit at a time, you know, like maybe 1 minute, you know, and then go to two.
I think that's the most realistic. Yeah, if
Go to
people
three.
people who
You
are
know,
not used
you
to.
don't gotta sit there and you know you're in meditation for 2 hours straight. You know, it's just start little and then see, you know, go a little more and then see what it does to you, you know, because
Yeah,
it will have an
that's right.
effect.
I think that's the only way people can start is maybe even start with, like, I know for some people doing 15 seconds is already a lot. Like start with 15 seconds, 30, a minute, then two, then 5, 10, 15. I think that's probably how I started too a long time ago. But then about 5 or 6 years ago, I started to meditate for an hour every morning. And I meditate for an hour every morning in my infrared sauna. And then I take a cold shower. Now I love it. Now I'm looking forward to it. But in the beginning, I'm like, my guides are like, why are you making me do this? Like this is hard. But now I'm like, oh, I'm reaping the benefits. Everything is so much smoother. Everything is better. I don't have drama and crazy people in my life. I don't, like I'm not attracted. I don't deal with them. I very just a lot. If everything is just a lot more organized, my mind is a lot more organized. I'm not getting into useless, stupid fights. When I was younger, I was always getting into fights. I don't even know why. When I was a teenager,
That's
was,
because you're reacting. Like, you know, when you're in, you're not reacting as you're aware of
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Oh yeah, when I was a kid on the playground. See, Americans don't have this, but I grew up in Russia, and we actually had playgrounds, and kids would actually fight on the playground. And I was a tomboy, so I got into a lot of fights all the time. I look back and I'm like, I don't even remember how the fight started. I would just suddenly realize I'm gonna fight. I just be walking, boom. I have no memory of how I got into it. Somebody must have said something, and boom, I was in a fight. Anyway, that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, my grandmother's wisdom, she always told me, you don't have to react, you don't have to react. So I've learned that, and that has uh, provided peace and balance. Even though I'm not saying I'm a master, I still do react to some stuff. You know what I'm saying? That makes me, that gets me going. But I am able to control it more through all the meditation.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I had a very serious rage issue. I think that's what it was. I would go from 0 to 10, absolute rage in like a fraction of a second. And I think meditation helps me to introspect and think through everything that's going on and what has been said, and choose my actions. And I think also the martial arts philosophy, I think helps me to understand that you have to choose your battles very, very carefully. If you fight with every idiot that comes along, you're going to end very quickly. Your energy is not infinite, especially as I get older. Energy is finite. If you waste it on stupidity, you're ultimately not going to win. So so it's studying martial arts philosophy that taught me. So now if somebody even picks a fight with me, I most likely am not going to get involved unless I really feel my life is truly in danger. But most of the time, if I really feel my life is in danger, I'll exit. I'm like, where, I'll exit, before I do anything else. Because I don't need the bullshit. Don't need it. I'm busy. I got
Yeah,
people to
that's
help.
smart. That's definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I'm thinking about all the younger generations and the nightmare that they're living. I think I mentioned this. Did I mention this earlier? My son's friends, right? I look at them and their life is a quiet, desperate nightmare. But they are so used to it, they don't realize they're in a nightmare. When I tell them what they could have and what I had when I was a kid, they like it's like a different planet to them. Like they don't know. They don't even know what they don't have. They lost everything. They don't have anything. Like they're literally just these little slaves of the system, and all they know is just how to believe whatever they're told. And they all have iPhones, and they all believe whatever they're told.
Sad. It's sad.
Yeah, it's very sad. Yeah, they don't even. That's the thing. They don't even think that they can fight for themselves. And what for? Like, okay, I'm gonna fight, and then what? Like they don't know what they're fighting for. Like at least if you once were free and then you were enslaved, you're like, well, I want to go back to that. But if you were never,
If they did have a proper education, they would understand, which is part of the system that but that is going to change too, and people will get proper education, in the future for sure.
yeah,
As this because the old system is failing, it's falling. The old world order, it's failing, and it's going to be replaced with actually a new world order, which is something new and something better. That's actually
so I
part of
wanted to
the.
ask you about that because some people, when they hear Bush, and I believe Bush is yeah, New World Order, that idea was before, but it was Bush who said it publicly, and a lot of people track it back to him. He introduced the idea of the New World Order. So some people would say New World Order is a bad thing. We don't want the New World Order. What do you say to that?
If they first thought logically, because there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation on the internet about what's going on. And if you think logically, a new world order is something new, okay? The old world order of globalization that the elite have been imposing on us, it's definitely not something new. It's old. They've been enslaving us for millennia now. So what they were able to do was they were able to take the term New World Order, and then they were able to make it people afraid of it, and then make it actually what was actually being instilled on people already. So people wouldn't know what a New World Order was, because if people knew what a New World Order was, they would want that immediately. You know what I'm saying? Because a new world order is a new religious paradigm. It's a new political paradigm. It's a new economic paradigm. You know what I'm saying? To replace the old world order, which was a religious paradigm led by Abrahamism, a political paradigm led by democracy and monarchy, and an economic paradigm led by free market Zionist capitalism, which that free market Zionist capitalism allows the 1% to get all of the wealth, which leaves us with nothing. So what we need is a new economic system, a new economic paradigm, which is social and national capitalism, which keeps the 1% from getting all the money, and it distributes the wealth out more evenly through meritocracy, because a meritocracy is what will replace democracy and monarchy. Because in a meritocracy, the best people get put in the highest positions instead of privileged people that have money. And that's why we have the world we live in today. It's because privileged people got in. But in a meritocracy, the most meritable people get in. And then through the religious paradigm change, it will be through illumination to replace Abrahamism.
So
And
some people
a little taste of the context of existence that we're moving into.
So some people might say, well, that sounds interesting on paper, but how do we know it can work? Do you have proof of concept?
Yeah, they can refer to the Armageddon conspiracy, who is actually the Pythagorean Illuminati. And they can read 273 books written by 36 different authors that explain everything you could ever want to know about this system, and it replacing the old system, because it's actually through what is called the dialectic, that the evolution of the universe, that this system will be replace the old system.
Interesting. So you know how, and I believe Carrie Cassidy kind of, and I know you've talked to her a few times too. I like how she simplified it, where like there's the old war between the Brotherhood. There's the light Illuminati and the dark Illuminati, and it's like the dark ones kind of just want to destroy everything. The light ones do care about humans and they want to preserve humans and help us to be enlightened. And they're fighting between each other, they're vying for control over humanity. So it sounds like what you're talking about is more like the light brotherhood. They want to bring enlightenment to the planet. But how do we know they're going to win the war? Maybe they're going to cancel each other out, and we're not going to have any of that.
Because it's inevitable, because the purpose of the universe is for it to achieve its maximum potential, its maximum expression and potential. So this is not the maximum expression and potential that we can be having. So with the evolution of the universe through what is called the dialectic, we will reach our maximum potential. The universe will reach it. And this is the system of that, of that happening.
Interesting. So, you know, the shamans, they also talk about integration. So there's the light and the dark. Here's something I learned when I was younger. I understood this to be the case, that when people think in terms of like heaven or hell, when they think in terms of the light frequencies and the dark frequencies, they're infinite. They don't actually end. And this is why something like suicide or an easy way out, they don't exist, because whatever direction you're going to go into, that direction ultimately is infinite. If you go into the dark and the hellish realms, you can go into really horrific places, and you'll just keep going, and it will get worse and worse. It never. And so it is with the positive ones. So I wonder if the two factions of the Illuminati, the light and the dark, they're just giving people a possibility to experience what it is that you want, like, oh, hey, want, or wherever it is you're going. But I ultimately feel that, and this is what my mentor also was teaching me, is you want to integrate. If you go too far in the light direction, it's like a circle. You end up in the dark. If you go into the dark direction, you end up in the light. And some of the dark Illuminati, they actually believe, that's why they torture their own children, because they believe that in the circle, the fastest way to reach the light is to go into the ultimate dark. Like you speed up and then you end up in the light. It sounds crazy, but they really do believe that. And needless to say that they kill a lot of people to get there, but some of their people do become very, very talented. They end up cultivating some extreme levels of talent and IQ, but at what price? So I'm not a proponent of these dark paths, but Are there talented people in there? Yes, I'm very talented, smart people. But integration is yet, I think, a third path, and I think I'm more for integration. I want to know everything. I was always like that. I want to know everything. I want to derive the wisdom and truth from everything, because if both of them are infinite, then there's knowledge and wisdom in both directions, which does not mean gray. But ultimately, when you integrate both, I think you yet create a third type of intelligence. Does that make sense?
It is actually called the third way. It is
Oh,
called the third way. Yes, it is. And you can learn that. I mean, if you want to know everything, definitely check out the Armageddon Conspiracy and all of their books, because I am telling you right now, they explain everything. They
interesting.
definitely
So
explain
what is
everything.
the third way?
The third way, it's not liberal and it's not even conservative. You know, it's not dark, it's not light. It's the third way in between, you know. And it's the way that it's not polar opposite, you know, it's in the middle. And so that's why they call it the third way.
Yeah, and that's why the shamans consume everything, and they process everything, consume everything, because ultimately they want to reduce everything to their essence, all of the knowledge. I don't. I'm gonna have to read about this. I'm not familiar with this, but I wonder if that's something I'm doing already, and maybe I didn't know that I'm doing that already, because I was always like that. I always want to know everything. I am very curious. I get into everything. I've been into some places that would terrify people. But I derived what I could from that, and moved on. Clearly, I'm still alive. Um, so clearly, I'm protected in my way. I hope that continues to be so. So let me also ask you this. So we're talking about all this, right? And you've talked about missions in the past, the missions you've done for Kruger, for Monarch, and for, as a super soldier. And some details, maybe not too many details, but like in the Taina show, you mentioned how you were an escort, you were like a guard for some of like high profile individuals. So what some people have said who were part of these programs is they signed a non-disclosure agreement. They cannot talk about any of this stuff. If they do, they get punished. Some of them get taken out, they disappear, or they get assassinated, they get removed. But so I think you said you didn't sign a non-disclosure agreement. So how did you not have to sign it, but so many other people had to sign it?
What I'm involved in is the unacknowledged special access programs. So it doesn't even exist. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't even exist. So I never signed a non-disclosure agreement for my military career, because I was never involved in the secret, like government part in my military career. I'm only involved in it outside of my military career, because they're coming and taking me, doing missions and stuff. So I never signed a non-disclosure agreement. So that's how I'm able to get out all of this information. They know that I'm doing this, but as an asset, they're not taking me out or anything like that, because I'm an asset. You know, so they I'm allowed to disclose. And it is part of letting the people know what's really going on, because one I'll just actually, this will be like probably the last thing I can talk about, which is going to bring some hope into the world, because the missions that I'm involved in are benevolent. You know, I'm involved in rescuing children. I'm involved in taking out high value targets, capturing them. You know what I'm saying? I'm involved in evacuations. I found this out through the Peter the Insider and the ACIO. When I got into contact with them in 2016, I found out that what I was doing was good. It was benevolent, which then matched up with my mission recall memories, because I do remember rescuing children. I do remember going in, capturing high value targets. The most recent one was actually recently in April, where I was on a mission, and in this mission we were going through a forest, and we were going up to a very highly advanced mansion. It was just a really rich person's mansion, and we infiltrated into that mansion because I remember being in there and sneaking around. I remember people walking around in the mansion, but they had no idea we were there. They had no idea we were there because we were infiltrating into that mansion to actually capture Klaus Schwab. And the thing is so I had this mission memory. I didn't know exactly what it was because I didn't remember the whole thing. But I remember going into the mansion and everything. And then the next day, because this is what happens to me when I have mission recalls, is the next day there'll be something in the media that that is telling about what I did.
Oh,
And
you
so
saw that recently, yeah. And then of course they had to fact check it and be like, oh no, that didn't happen.
but what did happen was after I had this memory, I came across a piece of intel that a black ops team had gone into Klaus Schwab's uh, uh, big mansion, and they actually captured him.
Yep, I saw that. Yep, yep.
Yeah, and he was hooked up to adrenochrome, and I can get in. I'm not even going to get into adrenochrome, but he was hooked up to adrenochrome, and we captured him and took him in to be interrogated and stuff because he is responsible for things like COVID. He's one of the main chairman of the WHO, the world or the World Health Organization, and we actually captured him, and
This
I
is
actually got confirmation of that.
very interesting. Yeah, I saw that article. Yep, as soon as that day when it came out.
So,
Is
and then that was the thing is they said that in this article that in the mainstream media it would say that Klaus Schwab was hospitalized. But and then so you go and fact check that, and lo and behold, Klaus Schwab is hospitalized. It says that in the mainstream media. And then a month later, now he's stepped down from his position. You know what I'm saying? That's because his ass got captured. So there are people getting captured, and there is benevolent operations going on, and I am definitely part of them because I am remembering the memories and getting confirmation about it.
well, thank you
So
for your service. I appreciate it. Uh, so you have a hard stop, right? Soon?
what's that?
You have a hard stop in terms of time soon? You have to end by a
Yeah,
certain time?
yeah, I do kind of gotta go. So
Okay, how many minutes do you have?
I can do not like till 5.
Till five. Okay, we got like 9 more minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
So so Randy Kramer and lots of other super soldiers talk about how because of the breakaway civilization has such advanced technology, they already figured out a long time ago how to clone human bodies, how to regenerate bodies. It's very easy for them through med beds and things like that. And if
They
even if
put all their secrets in movies.
that's right. And even if you're completely obliterated, all they need is like your DNA. They don't even need a body part. They already have your DNA on file. They just regenerate you. Have that has that ever happened to you? Were you ever so obliterated in combat that you had to be regenerated?
I do remember dying. That's the thing is I don't remember the regeneration, but I remember dying in my missions. I've been shot in the head. I've fallen from like skyscrapers and stuff. I've been telekinetically picked up and just thrown against the walls and messed up. So I remember dying. I definitely remember dying. I don't remember being regenerated, but I remember. But that's obviously what happened.
Yeah. Do you know how many times that happened to you?
I know that through my files, I've been on 4,000 over 4,500 missions because they every time they do this, you can actually see it on the show Bloodsport. They erase your mind and then erase your memory and then just restart it over again. And that's what is happening to me over and over and over and over and over and over again when I'm involved in these missions. So it's incredible how many missions I've been on and stuff. But it all definitely makes sense.
Yeah, it's all very interesting. I think for the average person, they're like, how's this even possible? And yet it's been going on for a long time. Like I know for certain my great grandfather and my grandfather, they were part of those kinds of programs, and it was all classified. At that time, you could not talk about it. They would have been for sure taken out if they talked about it. But and so I know that a little bit about those programs, and they were good. They were good warriors. They did not talk about it. And I don't know what generation they were, but you know, in terms of super soldier, but they were actually my great grandfather was from Samarkand, Uzbekistan. So for in Central Asia, and of course, the art of war came from Asia. So I think that's why some of the Asian, you know, maybe I don't look Asian, but I'm part Asian. There's something in the Asian culture that is very, you know, art of war oriented. It's in our blood, and it's very noble too. Like I was mentioning earlier. So another thing that some of the super soldiers mentioned is that their supervisors want them to talk about these things. They actually gave it almost like an order: go and talk about it. Did your supervisors ask you to like share the information?
They know what I'm doing. There was, you know, one time I had a memory recall where I was in a trip chair. You know, I was getting my memory erased, and there was a man standing there. Actually, it was Gabriel Kruger, and he told me, like, I remember him telling me this. He's like, "What you're doing is helping and saving humanity," is what he told me before I got my mind wiped and then, you know, sent back and everything like that. So they know that I'm doing this. You know, they
Sure.
definitely know that I'm doing this.
And then that may be why they're actually protecting you and talking about it, because maybe they actually want you to. And so that would
Especially,
answer,
yeah,
yeah.
that this information gets out so people know what's going on. That there's way more going on than meets the eye. You know, as people wake up out of the slumber and the system, people are going to need to have as much information as possible to understand what's going on.
Mhm.
So definitely, that's part of my mission. Getting sent back is being a source of information.
So another thing that people wonder, and I wonder this too, when you're on a super soldier mission, do you eat food? Because some said that they do, and some say no, they're powered in some other way, that their super soldier body, which is enhanced in the program, it consumes energy in some other way through charging up. And like it's, some say it's not exactly like photosynthesis, but they can get energy in another way. How do you get your energy when you're in mission?
Yeah, I'm not having a cheeseburger or anything like that. Like I don't remember recalling like eating food or anything like that. I believe the power is coming in a different uh manner in some way. Um, I'm not sure though how that works.
So some people say that the secret space program and the super soldier programs enhance them with different drugs, and sometimes surgeries, sometimes permanently and sometimes for the mission, and then it wears away. Did that ever happen to you?
Yes, I know that being part of this program, I have been genetically enhanced. I remember being taken down to the deep underground military bases. I also am implanted. I have an implant in me, you know, to be able to do some of the things that I can do as a super soldier. I got this information obviously from Peter the Insider and the ACIO. You know, he told me that because I was, you know, when I was little, I was getting taken to underground military bases. I was getting genetically altered, and I was getting implants taken in, stuck in me because I would wake up in my bed and I would have bloody noses. And but what I found out is that's how they stuck the implant, like through lobotomies. You know, that's how they do implants. So I know through implants and genetic manipulation is how, you know, we're operating.
Where
So
is
yeah,
it? Is it in the brain?
yes, yes,
Is it
just
like around
because
the third eye?
yeah, it's to activate psychic ability.
Oh, yeah, that
Like
makes
to be
sense.
able to do telekinesis, to be able to slow down time too,
Mhm.
because I remember memories of being able to slow down time around me. Just everything slows down and it's moving like at a fraction of a second, and I'm able to move normally, but I'm really moving really fast. It's a part of one of the abilities.
Very interesting. Um, did you, and you said, did you ever have to get like actual surgeries? Like, and I don't exactly know what some of the surgeries are, but like, I think, what was it, Michael Casbolt, Michael Prince, he talked about how they use this worm, like a silkworm, but it grows metal instead of silk, and they embed it in the bone, and then it moves through you, and it turns your bones into a type of metal, like into a type of alloy, a shape-shifting alloy. So like that's really advanced technology, but they injected with some sort of surgery. Did anything like that ever happen to you?
Well, I'm sure that those kind of operations have, I'm not aware completely of that, but I do know that um, actually have one memory where I was in a high rise skyscraper. I was running away because obviously, in a lot of these missions, I'm running away because I'm usually infiltrated into the bad guys, and then they usually find me out. Not usually, but there's sometimes when it happens. So I'm running away in this mission, and I'm getting chased by these guys, and I go into this elevator, and then I post up against the door, and then they just start shooting bullets into the door, because they're trying to kill me. And then they ended up cutting the cord of the elevator shaft, so I fell down, like 100 stories or whatever. And then I slammed into the ground. But what I found, I didn't die though, because I was able to shift. I was shifted when I hit. Like, so I was super soldier mode. And obviously my bones were alloy. Everything was just like, because I didn't die. And then I was able to come out of the elevator. There were people all around me, and then I started running up the walls. I started running up the walls, and then I manifested two weapons out of my hands, and I found out that those weapons are called three in ones, because they have three different type of discharges. I found this out from Peter the Insider because he has filled me in on a lot of the details, because he is a super soldier. So he's able to fill me in about the things that I tell him about. But I went on the walls, and I was able to start simultaneously targeting everybody in the room, and yeah, just went off that way. So
Very, very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And so for people who are like, that sounds sci-fi, that's not possible. I want you to think logically. If militaries do have this technology, why would they go around telling you? They're not going to report to you the kind of technology they have. Militaries don't do that. Hello. They're going to hide their secrets. So just like think logically about, if we already thought about it and it's in sci-fi movies, surely these advanced militaries that have multi-trillions of dollars have thought of this already, you
like
know?
when people are able to accept the reality of super soldiers, that will change the reality. You know what I'm saying? Because the fact that it's all woo woo, you know what I'm saying, and people can't even actually wrap their head around it. It's made that way for a reason, because once it's acknowledged, it will change the reality. People will be like, "Holy shit, there's more going on than these cars driving on the street, and this everyday world of common day." And that's what they don't want people to know, because yeah.
Yeah, militaries don't reveal their secrets unless for some reason it's part of their agenda for you to know. Otherwise, I assure you, if anyone tries to say something they're not supposed to be saying, you're never going to see that information. So in us talking about it, it means that that yeah, it's like you mentioned, somebody is protecting you in being able to reveal it. For some reason, the public needs to know. And
I
and
mean,
I'm
I'm
glad.
I am attacked though. You know what I'm saying? It's not like
By the other side, probably by whoever you're against. Yeah, the other side probably attacking
yeah,
you.
I'm attacked by directed energy weapons,
Oh yeah.
all that stuff all the time. It's
Well, and
not
I suspect it's because they don't want the information out. There are groups that don't want the information out, and there are groups that do want the information out. But
yeah.
you're also protected. You're because that dude is powerful. If they really wanted to kill you, you'd have been dead. But it
Mhm.
means someone is protecting you, and you're able to stay alive even though you're hit with dew.
Yeah, I gotta protect myself too, and keep myself as healthy as I can,
Absolutely,
stay
absolutely,
alive as long as I can. So that's really important to me is my health, and so that's what I'm really focusing on is I just want to be as healthy as possible. We all should want to be as healthy as possible so we can uh, perform the best we can and reach our maximum. Everybody reach their maximum potential.
who is your role model? Who's the number one person, fictional or real, who that you look up to?
Oh man. Okay, my role model. Okay, I'll say Master Chief from Halo.
Okay, cool, cool. Okay, thank you so much, Anthony. I so appreciate you being on the show and sharing all your information. I really loved hearing all the information. I hope people did too. And I hope you guys comment and respond. What do you think of his information? If you have questions, do you think it's real? Do you think it's fake? You tell me. People are watching and listening, but they're not really commenting. Comment. Subscribe and share. That will help Anthony out too, because he has a mission to spread the information far and wide. And I'm available for private sessions and for coaching. So if you need help with your nutrition, your fitness, reach out. I'm happy to help, especially if you're into these really hard sports like MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They're really tough on the body. And I'm dealing now with health challenges. I'm older. I'm over 40, but I'm dealing with health challenges now because I'm doing the sport. But I'm determined. I love the sport. I don't want to quit, but that means I got to really take care of my stuff. So and I'm learning things of how to take care of the body to do the sport. So that's why now I can help people in the sport because now I'm dealing with these issues, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and they're just to remember, there's always tomorrow. Today's the day, but there's always tomorrow. Tomorrow's another day, and everything you do matters, literally. So definitely uh, think about what you're doing and do the best you can.
100%. Thank you so much. Have an amazing rest of your week, and I will talk to you later.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much, Errol.